Chase just changed the Sapphire Preferred, and honestly, most of the changes look really good. But there are some things to talk about, especially one change buried in the fine print that is going to cost some of you some real value. In this video, I want to break down everything that changed, the good, the bad, and give my take on it, because there's a lot going on here and I think many people can actually benefit from this card now. By the end of this, you're gonna know exactly what changed and what it means for you, whether the card is still worth applying for right now, and what existing card holders should actually do before October 1st, 2026. Let's start with everything new that Chase added, because there were quite a few changes and most of it was good. The first thing and the most practically useful change is that the annual hotel credit doubled. It went from $50 to $100 per year for hotel stays booked through Chase Travel. That can be huge because the annual fee on this card is $95. So if you book even one hotel night a year through Chase Travel, the credit alone more than covers what you're paying to hold onto the card. And what some people like to say is that you are basically getting paid $5 a year to keep the card. Of course, with this Chase hotel credit, you still have to book through Chase Travel. So the price may be more expensive or cheaper when you book through there as opposed to booking directly with a hotel. For existing Chase Sapphire Preferred card holders, if you already used your $50 credit earlier this anniversary year, you just got another $50 unlocked as of June 15th. 2026. You don't have to wait for your anniversary for this credit to reset and give you the full $100 amount. The second addition is one that should have been on this card years ago. Chase added 3x points on gas and EV charging. This was one of the most glaring gaps in the Chase ecosystem for a long time. Citi had had this on their $95 Citi Strata Premier card for years, and Chase just finally caught up. If gas is one of your bigger monthly expenses, this card just got a lot more useful without you changing anything about how you spend. And since the Sapphire Preferred is a Visa card, this means you could use it on Costco gas and still get 3x Chase points. Although some data points said that this was a little wishy-washy, so go to Costco gas, fill up, use your Sapphire Preferred card, and after you try it out the first time, check your Chase app to see if it coded as gas for you and gave you the full 3x points before you keep going back and using your Sapphire Preferred at Costco gas. Third, Chase added 3x points on vacation rentals, which are companies like Airbnb, VRBO, and some other ones. This matters because Airbnb and VRBO have basically taken over the travel market for a huge segment of travelers, especially if you travel with a group or a family. Before this change, the card was only giving you 2x on those bookings under the general travel category. Now it is 3x. Chase still kept the existing reward multipliers, which are 5x on Chase travel purchases, 3x on dining, online groceries, streaming services, 2x on all other travel booked outside of Chase, and 1x on everything else. The online grocery multiplier limitation is still here. It still has to be ordered through an app or a delivery service, not picked up in store at most places. That has been a frustration since day one, and Chase did not fix it with this refresh. If that was your main complaint before, well, it's still going to be your main complaint. Moving along, Chase added a global entry, TSA PreCheck, or Nexus credit up to $120 every 4 years. Chase also added emergency evacuation and transportation coverage. If you or a covered traveler are injured, or maybe you become sick more than 100 miles from home, and you need emergency evacuation, you are covered for eligible medical services and transport up to $100,000 on a $95 annual fee card. That is not a small thing. Most cards at this price point do not come close to that benefit or that travel coverage. This coverage is usually limited to much higher annual fee credit cards. And then there is one more addition that's more of a nice one-time bonus than a main core benefit. You have until December 31st, 2026 to activate a complimentary 1-year Apple TV subscription. And for all of you Apple One subscription holders, you will receive a discount on 1 year of your subscription because of this Sapphire Preferred benefit. It should happen or kick in automatically once you activate it through Chase, but if you have some trouble, there are tons of Reddit posts to help you troubleshoot. Last thing on the good news side, right now at the time of writing this script, the welcome bonus on the Chase Sapphire Preferred is 100,000 points after spending $5,000 in the first 3 months. That matches the highest welcome offer this card has ever had. This alone could make the card worth it for you in year one just from the sign-up bonus alone. So on paper, this card got a lot better. The hotel credit effectively eliminates the annual fee for some people. The new categories for spend cover more real everyday spending. The global entry credits is great to have, and the emergency evacuation coverage makes this one of the best protected cards in its price range. But let's move on to the more negative changes that Chase made with this refresh. One of them is pretty minor. The other one, though, is significant depending on how you use your Chase points. Let's start with the minor one and just get that one out of the way. Chase eliminated the 10% anniversary points bonus, and some of you might not have even known you had this bonus anyway. People will not miss this benefit. But the bigger change that Chase made is something that a lot of people will feel and will miss. They changed the transfer ratio from Chase Ultimate Reward points to World of Hyatt. It went from 1-to-1 ratio to 4-to-3. Before this change, 1,000 Chase points became 1,000 Hyatt points, 1-to-1. Now, 1,000 Chase points only becomes 750 Hyatt points. That is a 25% cut on every single transfer you make to Hyatt from this card. Add that to the devaluations that Hyatt already made on their own award system and program, and now you have an even bigger devaluation. So say you had 60,000 Chase points sitting in your account and you're planning to transfer them to Hyatt. Before the refresh, that would get you 60,000 Hyatt points. After the refresh, that same 60,000 Chase points only gets you 45,000 Hyatt points. You just lost 15,000 Hyatt points for nothing. Now, what does 15,000 Hyatt points actually mean in the real world? Depending on the property, that could be the difference between a free night or even 2 free nights or 3 free nights and, not enough points for 1 free night. So it is a significant difference. Like I mentioned earlier, Hyatt recently overhauled their own award chart too, which means points are already harder to stretch than they used to be. So you're getting hit twice here. Chase is giving you fewer Hyatt points per transfer, and Hyatt itself has already made those points worth less than they were a couple years ago. This devaluation only affects transfers to Hyatt. Every other transfer partner on this card, or at least with Chase, like United, Southwest, JetBlue, Air Canada, British Airways, blah, 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 all of them are still at 1-to-1 ratio. If you use your Chase points primarily for flights, then yeah, nothing changes for you with this devaluation. This is specifically a Hyatt problem. Although Hyatt has historically been one of, if not the best, transfer partner in the entire Chase ecosystem. In fact, the reason why so many people got this card in the first place was to access Hyatt at a 1-to-1 transfer ratio. So taking a 25% cut here is not a small deal for those guys. For a certain type of points user, this is literally the whole reason why they got the Sapphire Preferred. Although I will say, even with this devaluation, there is still good redemption options and value from transferring your Chase points to Hyatt. It does not mean that that whole route of redeeming your points through Hyatt is gone or just not worth it anymore. Yes, it's less valuable, but it's still a valuable redemption option to begin with. I also want to mention one more thing here that I think is important. The Chase Sapphire Reserve still transfers to Hyatt at a 1-to-1 ratio. Chase did not touch the Sapphire Reserve on this. So if Hyatt is central to your points strategy, the Reserve and the Business Reserve are now the only Chase cards where that 1-to-1 Hyatt ratio stays intact. Okay, so here's the part that I think is actually the most actionable in this whole entire video. And it is the part that most people covering this refresh aren't spending enough time on. There is a real deadline here. If you're an existing cardholder or you applied before June 15th, you have a window or you have some time that new applicants for this card do not get. And here's how it works. If you applied for the Chase Sapphire Preferred on or after June 15th, 2026, the new 4-to-3 Hyatt transfer ratio is already in effect for you. That is your reality, unfortunately, starting now. But if you already had the card before June 15th, or if you applied before that date, you still have the original 1-to-1 Hyatt transfer ratio until October 1st, 2026. After that date, everyone then moves to the 4-to-3 transfer ratio. So what does that actually mean for you if you had this card before June 15th? If Hyatt is a meaningful part of how you use your Chase points, you have until September 30th, the day before October 1st, to transfer at that 1-to-1 better ratio. So set your calendar, set your alerts, set your reminders or whatever. And I want to be careful here because I don't want to tell everyone just dump all their Chase points into Hyatt right now. That is not necessarily the right move, and here's why. Once you transfer Chase points to Hyatt, they're Hyatt points. You can't transfer them back. So if you move a big chunk of your Chase points to Hyatt and then you end up not using them for a Hyatt stay, or you don't use them for years and years and years, you've locked yourself out of every other redemption option that you could have used for if it was Chase points, right? Like flights, other hotels, cash back. All of it, it's just gone. There are now Hyatt points. So the question to ask yourself is simple. Do you have a specific Hyatt stay in mind in the next year or two? A trip that you are already planning? A property you know you want to book? If the answer is yes, then transferring before October 1st at 1-to-1 makes a lot of sense. You lock in the better ratio for redemption you already were confident in or you already were going to do. If the answer is no, and you're just thinking about transferring because the deadline feels urgent and you don't want to miss out on the 1-to-1 ratio, then I would, chill out a little bit. Flexible points sitting in Chase are almost always more valuable than locked points sitting in a hotel program that you're not sure you're going to use. And one more thing worth knowing here is that if you have points spread across other Chase cards like the Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited, or an Ink card, those points can be combined into your Sapphire Preferred account and then transferred to Hyatt. So the transfer ratio applies to whatever card you are transferring from. So if you pull everything into the Sapphire Preferred before October 1st and then you transfer, then yeah, you get the 1-to-1 ratio on all those cards or all those points, not just the points that you earned directly on the Sapphire Preferred. Another tip or trick is if you have a partner in the credit card game. You do not both need the same card. One person runs the Sapphire Preferred for the gas and Airbnb spend categories, and the other holds the reserve and keeps Hyatt at a 1-to-1 transfer ratio. You guys can transfer Chase points between each other and get the best of both worlds. Not everyone has that option, but if you do, it's worth considering. Okay, so now let's talk about whether this card is actually worth getting in 2026, because I think the answer is different depending on where you are in your credit card journey. Let me just give you the direct take first and then break it down. For most people watching this, yes, the card, the Sapphire Preferred, is worth applying for right now. Probably more so than it was before the refresh, and the timing is actually pretty good. The welcome bonus is currently 100,000 points after you hit the minimum spend requirement, and that's the highest offer this card has ever publicly had. At a minimum, those points are worth $1,000 in travel booked through Chase Travel. And of course, if you transfer those points to the right transfer partner, that same 100,000 points is actually going to be worth more than $1,000. You could stretch it significantly further. I've done videos on exactly how to do that, and we'll link those down below. But even if you never transfer a single point to a transfer partner and just use the Chase Travel Portal, $1,000 in travel value from a sign-up bonus on a $95 annual fee card is still a strong starting position. Just make sure you aren't spending too much or overspending just to hit that minimum spend requirement. And now let's talk about justifying that annual fee. The card still costs $95 a year. The hotel credit is $100 a year. If you book one hotel night through Chase Travel where the price is the same as booking directly, then you're pretty much already in the green before you even earn a single point. You add in the global entry credits if you would use it, and then the effective cost of holding onto this card drops even further. So who is this card actually for right now? It is a strong fit if you are new to travel rewards and you want one card that covers a wide range of spending categories without a complicated system. You have dining, gas, online groceries, streaming, Airbnb, and general travel. That's most of what people spend money on. The card now covers almost all of that at 3x or better. It also is a strong fit if you already have Chase no annual fee cards like the Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited. Those cards earn Chase points, but you can't transfer those points to travel partners without a Sapphire card in your account. So if you've been sitting on a pile of Chase Freedom points that you can only redeem for 1 cent each, adding the Sapphire Preferred unlocks the ability to transfer all those points to airlines and hotels. That alone can dramatically increase the value of the points you already have earned. It's also worth considering if you are someone who books Airbnb or VRBO regularly and does not have a card that rewards that category, because before this refresh, almost no card at this price point was giving you elevated points on vacation rentals consistently. Now this one does. However, there are still some people who will not benefit from this card anymore, or at least will benefit way less, and should consider something else. If Hyatt is your primary and really your only reason for wanting the Sapphire Preferred, The math has changed. You are now getting 25% fewer Hyatt points per transfer than you would have gotten 2 months ago. That does not automatically make the card bad, but it does mean you need to think about whether the other benefits and categories justify the annual fee for your specific situation. For some Hyatt loyalists, the honest answer might be to look at the Sapphire Reserve instead, or to explore other paths to Hyatt points like with the Built credit cards, which still transfer to Hyatt at a 1-to-1 ratio. And if you genuinely do not travel at all, not even one hotel night a year, the hotel credit does not help you. The global entry, 3x Airbnb, upgraded travel coverage does not help you. In that case, a no annual fee card is probably a better fit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let me give you the final verdict on this card because I think it's pretty clear. I'm not trying to be a Chase bandwagoner or, push this card too hard, but I do think the Chase Sapphire Preferred got meaningful better for most people with this refresh. The hotel credit alone basically wipes out the annual fee. The new categories finally cover things people actually spend money on every day or often. The global entry credits and emergency evacuation coverage add real protection that used to cost a lot more to get. And the 100,000 point welcome offer is just the best that this card has ever had, so it's a good opportunity to pick it up. For most people watching this, especially if you are earlier in your points journey, this card makes the most sense right now, or at least more sense right now than it did 6 months ago. The caveat is with Hyatt. If that transfer partner is the whole reason you have this card, the math changed and you need to decide what to do about it before October 1st comes around. Transfer the points that you need to Hyatt with the Hyatt plans that you have. Think about whether the Sapphire Reserve makes sense for your situation, or look into Built if Hyatt is non-negotiable and the Sapphire Reserve's annual fee is kind of a stretch. But do not let that one thing or that one change cloud the bigger picture for you if Hyatt was never really your things to begin with. This card is not perfect. It never was. The online grocery thing still bothers me. I wish they had fixed that. But as an entry point into travel rewards or as a card that lives in your wallet long term and earns on the stuff you are already buying, it just got a real upgrade without raising the price. At the end of the day, we are getting more from this card and still keeping the same annual fee. In this economy and day and age, that's a huge win. If you want to apply, the link is in the description. If you're already holding this card and want to make sure you're getting the most out of it, I will link my Chase point maximization videos because that should be helpful as well. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Shoot.